what the left does is they attack various social institutions. And what they do is they try to depict a complex, intricate social institution which solves ancient and fundamental human problems as something which is archaic and out of date. And in some ways, they almost try to make this argument on the basis that it solves very old problems. What they, of course, either neglect to realize or just don't care to share with people because they're not honest is that we as human beings still wrestle with the same issues. And so the ancient solutions that have worked for thousands of years. And so what they'll do with something like, quote unquote, gender roles, the relationship between men and women, the distinctions between us, is they will take male-only activities in male-only spaces, and they'll say, this entire paradigm of men having their own realm where they go do man things is an outgrowth of men just wanting to respond to their own violent, piggish, biological instincts and do uncivilized, manly things.
I'm not allowed to stand up for myself? I thought this was America.
That's generally how male-only spaces are depicted in the popular culture and within the left-wing ideological framework. It's always, these are a bunch of dudes who want to go off and be idiotic cavemen. What they don't realize is when men don't have male-only spaces, and by the way, a male-only space can be a space where you're engaged in almost any kind of activity, things that have no biological relationship to being male, okay? It could be something totally arbitrary, like collecting leaves. Let's say men just went out and they collected leaves, and they did that. And that was how they had their time with other men and competed with one another. The reason that's so important, even if that specific task has nothing to do intrinsically with male biology, is it gives men another way to express a masculine identity outside of their biological urges. And when you take away male-only activities, all men have left are the basic biological male methods of proving manliness in an uncivilized society, which are sex and violence. So in their attempt to strip away the primitive, they end up making human beings behave in ways which are more primitive, because you look at the way the world is today, and in many instances, the culture seems to really be promoting the idea that those are the only ways that men can prove themselves, right? What happens if a man says something that's unpopular? Well, he's an incel. He hasn't proven himself sexually, or he's weak, whatever else it is. They, in trying to strip things away, reduce things to their really primordial components. And then the same thing happens with racial issues. They've torn down all of these various institutions, and they try to deconstruct race to a certain point where they end up going in reverse and encouraging people to their rigid understanding of like oppressive racial hierarchies is so warped and rigid that they end up returning to, oh no, we do need to separate ourselves on the basis of racial identity. And,
on the flip side of that, sometimes there's some men that would become more like apes, and then some men get more feminine. And then the women who say men are terrible, they're bad, they just want to rape us and make us have babies and make sandwiches, they make these men become like women. So it's like people that go from like a man that will go from landscaping, where all the dudes are kind of rough and gruff. They're not apes, but they're just dudes, and men talk differently when they're not around women because they're just trying to be respectful of the
I disavow. I've never known. For me and the boys, we never say anything we wouldn't say.
Sure. Folks that go from like I know people that have gone from like landscaping to the corporate world, and they just can't stand the way men talk, and they do that up talk like how women do when they think that it is professional.
Oh, up like this?
Yes, exactly. And then they become kind of like women. And then those are the men who are like sleep with the women at work. So I guess they still kind of become like apes, but they just
no, exactly.
They're just like apes with lipstick and a tutu on.
Miss, you are way out of line.
That's kind of what I was thinking. I mean, this effeminate behavior is still very animal-like because they're taking the path of least resistance. They're just responding to biological urges, which any animal can do. What a human person is supposed to do is use their faculties of reason to say, oh, this is what I am better predisposed to do. This is what I should do as a man, as a woman, right? Like various animals don't have a conceptualization of what manhood is or what womanhood is. All they have is instinct.
Right.
And so when the left deconstructs gender and sexuality, all they do is return us to those instincts, to put us in a position where there is no cultural or societal understanding that there's a difference between men and women, is to just attempt to return us to a state of nature where all you have is the biology with none of the governing rules, and that ain't pretty.
You're totally right. When I was a kid, I was registered homeschool, but a group of us in the church met at the church every Monday through Thursday, and we would have Bible class, and they taught us like sin of man, kind of like where men want to try to dominate, and then sin of woman, where women try to dominate, but it's through manipulation and like kind of like social warfare.
And women, it tends to take the expression of innuendo, gossip, and reputation destruction.
Being married, let me tell you, there are things that I just naturally want to do. It's kind of like Paul, like I do what I don't want to do and I don't want to do what I do, stuff like that. And it's like my natural instinct is to try to like nag or to manipulate or to try to get him to do what I want him to do, but not be direct, because for some reason women have an issue with doing that. I don't know why. And we just like, maybe if I say it this way, if I hint at it, like it's sin nature. And it's like, I want to revert back to what you were talking about, like that biological, like instinct. And I have to fight that all the time, because what is it going to do? It's going to emasculate him. He's going to hate me. He's never going to want to come home. All of a sudden, there's something I have to do after work, like, and it just it separates the sexes. So they keep doing that with all these different groups, and it just brings more separation.